A Rabbinic Anthology, selected with an introduction by C.G. Montefiore and H.Loewe. Remember that at the end of Herbert Lowe's introduction, we have appended the part that includes the abbreviations. Chapter 25, Asceticism. No doubt the children grew up under strict guidance, yet as we have seen, there must have been much joy in the rabbinic households. The rabbis rarely despaired of this life. However, intensely they believed in another. Asceticism, except in so far as it was useful for the study of the law, was not favored. The following extract represents the rabbinic point of view. Joy, but disciplined joy is the ideal. Note, however, the delicate ending of the quotation. 1473, Sefer Deuteronomy, Re'eh, section 104, folio 95a, H, page 163. 4. A holy people art thou. Deuteronomy 14, verse 2. Sanctify thyself even in that which is permitted to thee. Things allowed to thee, but forbidden to others, do not regard as permissible in their presence. Sefer Deuteronomy, section 104, folio 95a, H, page 163. H.L.'s note, the Hebrew term which probably comes nearest to asceticism is seguf. We have had the verb previously in selection 1072, where it is stated that a workman who, by undue asceticism, becomes inefficient, robs his employer. For an interesting example of the term, see Ecclesiastes R on 318, folio 12a. The biblical verse is very difficult and probably corrupt, and the meaning of the midrashic adaptation is also in parts difficult and uncertain. The following is a possible rendering. I said in my heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, Ecclesiastes 3:18, this refers to the manner in which the righteous conduct themselves in this world in asceticism, in afflictions, and in sufferings. Why do they act thus? That God might manifest to them. Ecclesiastes 3:18, the measure of the righteousness, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. Ecclesiastes 3:18, i.e. to see and show forth to the Gentiles, those who turn their back on God, that they follow God, a true Yahweh, as a beast follows the shepherd. Ezekiel 34:31, that's H.L.'s note, and see our selection 1486, or listen to these programs in order. We may get to that in this program. Are Isaac's like our Joshua's? 1477. Advice is interesting. 1474, TJ, Ned 9, section 1, folio 41b, line 62. Our Isaac said, are not the things prohibited in the law enough for you that you want to prohibit yourself other things? A vow of abstinence is like an iron collar, such as is worn by prisoners, about a man's neck. One who imposes on himself such a vow is like a man who meets a detachment of soldiers with such a collar and puts his own head into it, or he is like a man who drives a sword into his body. T.J. Ned 9, section 1, folio 31b, line 62. 1475, Sifra 82d, 83a. On the day of atonement, ye shall afflict your souls. Leviticus 16:31. You might think that a man should sit in the sun or in the cold so as to feel pain. No, for it only says, no manner of work shall ye do. Words left out. And it says, he afflicted thee with hunger. Deuteronomy 8:3. So the affliction of your souls in Leviticus is only an affliction of hunger. Sephra 82d, 83a. The meaning is that extra supererogatory asceticisms are not desirable. R. Elazar Ha Kapar uses the wording of the law in Numbers 6:11 to say 1476, Sephra Numbers Nassau, section 30, folio 10a, H page 36. If the Nazarite, because he afflicted himself in abstaining from wine, needed atonement, how much more does he need atonement who gives himself pain by abstaining generally from pleasant and legitimate enjoyments? See Kuhn's note and SB 3 403 494. Sephra Numbers Nassau, section 30, folio 10a, H page 36. 1477. Bab B 60b, see selection 688. When the temple was destroyed, the number of the abstemious in Israel was increased, who would neither eat flesh nor drink wine. Well, in some cultures, anything that's intoxicating or anything that's an animal product is only from sacrifices, particularly if it's meat. Some make milk and stuff, okay, but, our Joshua went to them and asked them why they did so. And they said, how can we eat flesh, seeing that flesh was offered upon the altar? And how can we drink wine, seeing that wine was used in libations upon the altar? And all has now ceased. Then he said, in that case, we should not eat bread, for the meal offerings have now ceased. They said, well, perhaps we can live on fruit. He said, then we should eat no fruit, for the offering of the firstfruits has ceased. They said, perhaps we can manage on fruits of which the firstfruits were not offered. He said, then we should drink no water, for water was used in the libations. Then they were silent. He said to them, not to mourn at all is impossible for us, seeing that the decree has been decreed, but to mourn overmuch is also not possible for us, for a decree is not imposed upon the community which the majority of the community is unable to endure. Our Ishmael B. Elisha said the same, and he added, from the time that the Roman government has power over us and imposes hard decrees upon us and seeks to cause the law and commandments to cease and to prevent the circumcision of our sons, we ought perhaps to ordain that no one should marry and beget children, but then the descendants of Abraham would come to an end. Therefore we must allow Israel to marry, for it is better that the Israelite should sin unwittingly than wittingly. Bab B 60b, selection 688. The decree mentioned here is one imposed by the rabbinical court. The phrase is a common one, i.e. that too heavy a burden must not be imposed. Sometimes a mournful tendency is observed. 1478, Bear 30b's footnote. Mar B. Rabbina made a marriage feast for his son when he observed that the rabbis who were present were very merry. So he seized a mokra goblet. Is it mokra? Rasha, a goblet of fine crystal. Tosafot, hence the custom of breaking the glass at weddings, worth 400 zuzim, approximately shillings, and broke it in their presence and made them somber. Rabbi Asha acted similarly in like circumstances. At Mar's own wedding, the rabbis asked Hamnuna the Small to sing to them. He replied, presumably in song, Woe to us, for we die, woe to us, for we die. They said, how shall we sing, literally say, in response to thee? He said to them, where is the Torah and where the mitzvah that shall protect us? In the name of our Simeon B. Yochai, our Johanan said, a man should not fill his mouth with laughter in this world, because it says, then shall our mouth be filled with laughter. Psalm 126:2. When will this be? When, as the verse continues, they say among the nations, great things has the Lord. Probably God is a verb and noun. And nations is probably those who turn their back on God or polytheist or something, right? They say among the nations, great things has the Lord done with these. They tell of our Simeon B. Lachish that after hearing this explanation from his teacher, our Johanan, he nevermore filled his mouth with laughter. Bear 30b's footnote. As regards wine, one could make quotations both ways, as one who leans towards teetotalism. I give the following: 1479, Sanhedrin 70a, 70b. R. Isaac said, quoting Proverbs 23:31, wine makes the faces of the wicked red in this world, but pale in the world to come. R. Me'er said, the tree of which Adam ate was a vine, for it is wine that brings lamentation to man. Sanhedrin 70a, 70b, 1480, San 8:5. The wine and sleep of the wicked are a benefit to them and a benefit to the world, but the wine and sleep of the righteous are a misfortune for them and for the world. San 8:5. Wine induces sleep. 1481. He who, in order to guard against sin, abstains from wine is worthy to receive all the blessings contained in the priestly benediction. Numbers R. Nassau 11:1. Okay, this that blessed be list in the book of it says Numbers. Is it Numbers somewhere? H.L.'s note. The point of this saying is that priests might not drink wine before serving at the altar. As is stated in the next extract, the death of Nadab and Abihu in the biblical account, Leviticus 10:1-7, is not directly connected with any sin committed by them, but as the narrative immediately proceeds to forbid an officiating priest under pain of death to drink wine, it is assumed that Aaron's two sons perished for this reason. The chief relic of sacerdotal functions in the synagogue is the pronouncing of the priestly benediction. Singer, page 238a. Among the Sephardim are Jews of the Spanish and Portuguese rite. This benediction is recited in the morning service, before which one should not breakfast. But among Jews who follow the Ashkenazic rites, the recital takes place at the additional service, as indicated in Singer's rubric. The additional service, Musaf, now follows immediately on the morning service, though in some congregations the original interval survives. In that case, perhaps, would have breakfasted before the additional service and have recited the Kiddush over the wine, Singer, page 174's footnote, and have drunk wine at the grace after meals, Singer, page 287, 288. This applies to the priest, hence he should not stand up to bless the people. Therefore, on the feast of rejoicing of the law, when it may be assumed that most people will have drunk wine, the benediction is omitted. Line 1 of Singer's rubric is therefore incorrect, but this extra page was inserted in the later editions published after Mr. Singer's death. In this saying, the meaning is that such as the priest abstains from wine, so is it desirable for the worshiper, the recipient of the benediction, also to do. And that's H.L.'s note. 1482 Numbers are and so 10, 4, and 8. Whether there is wine, wherever there is wine, there is unchastity. Words left out. It is written, it is not for kings to drink wine, lest they forget the law and pervert the judgment of the afflicted. Proverbs 31, 4 and 5. Drink wine, and you will condemn the innocent and acquit the guilty. Hence, it has been said, a judge who has drunk a quart of wine must not sit in judgment, and a wise man who has drunk a quart of wine must not teach. Was Rumsfeld, that dude could show up to the stand with a couple Jack Daniels, like 40s or something like that. I've seen clips of it. Didn't watch much of those Congress and Senate speeches, but he could probably do better if he wasn't alcoholic. But give strong drink to him that is about to die, and wine to those who are troubled in heart. Proverbs 31, 6. R. Chanan said, wine is created in this world only, to reward the wicked in this world, for they are lost for the world to come. Wine to the troubled. Hence, they have told us that all who were condemned to death by the court in Jerusalem were given strong wine, that their consciousness might become confused, and that the word might be fulfilled. Give strong drink to him that is about to die. Words left out. The Midrash then contrasts two verses, in both of which strength occurs. In the former, it is associated with the Torah, in the latter, with wine. The former is, happy art thou, O land, when thy king is free, Ahaz, son of nobles, and thy princes eat in due season for strength and not for drunkenness. Ecclesiastes 10:17. Free, son of freedom, son of nobles, is here connected with Torah on the basis of Abbott 6.2, per book page 205, cited above, 378. The second verse is, woe unto them that are strong to drink wine, says Isaiah 5:11. The strength of the law is happy, the strength of wine is woe. Words left out. When wine comes in, knowledge goes out. Where there is wine, there is no knowledge. When wine comes in, a secret goes out. The point of this remark is that the numerical equivalent of wine, yayin, is 70. Secret, sod, also amounts to 70. On the use of the numerical equivalent, see Judaism and Christianity 212, and that's H.L.'s note. What is the other? The Hebrew court is a small measure, and so is the Midrash says. Okay, that line's also his note, but then we don't have the brackets. If a man has drunk 1 quart of wine, a quarter of his intelligence is gone. Oh, you have to drink a full gallon? Anyways, he drunk 3/4 of his intelligence are gone, and his mind is confused, and he begins to say unseemly things. If he drinks a 4th quart, all his intelligence goes. His mind is confused, his tongue is broken, he seeks to speak and cannot, his tongue is tied. Therefore, they say, a priest who has drunk 1 quart is disqualified from the service of the altar, and an Israelite who has drunk 1 quart is disqualified from judging, so as to teach you that nothing good comes from wine. The Midrash is not always favorable. And we have brackets again for the Midrash is not always so unfavorable to wine, but it recognizes the dangers. Numbers are so 10, 4, and 8. Okay, so the part that starts in brackets was the point of this remark to the Midrash says. 1483, Tanch Nawach, section 13, folio 21b. When Noah was about to plant the vine, Satan came and stood before him and asked what he was planting. Noah said, vineyard. Satan said, what is its nature? He replied, its fruits are ever sweet, whether moist or dry, and from them one makes wine that rejoices the heart of mortals. Psalm 104, verse 15. Satan then said, "Come and let us collaborate, the two of us, in this vineyard." Noah said to him, "Very good." So Satan brought successively a lamb, a lion, a pig, and an ape, which he slaughtered, and with their blood he fertilized the vineyard. This is a sign that before a man drinks wine, he is ignorant as a sheep, and has no knowledge at all, or as an ewe, dumb before those that shear her. If a man drinks properly, he becomes strong as a lion, whom nothing in the world can withstand. When he drinks more than is proper, well, it takes a lot of experiment to figure that part out, right? He becomes like a pig that wallows in mire, and when he becomes drunk, he dances like an ape and utters folly before all, and knows not what he does. If all this happened to Noah, that man whom God singled out for praise as righteous in his generation, Genesis 6:9, how much more will it happen to ordinary folk who drink to excess? Tunch, Nawach, section 13, folio 21b. A lot of these things that are disparaging stories about the prophets actually come in later, according to historical evidence. 1484, I mean, not all of them can be proven as such, but a lot of them can. 1484, Ned 10a, if he who refrains from wine is called a sinner because the Nazarite brings a sin offering, how much more is he a sinner who painfully refrains from everything? Hence, too, he who habitually fasts is called a sinner. Ned 10a. Now, you do need to break from fasting some, outside of what's obliged, once every 3 days or every other day, but not, it's probably better to just look at the recommended fast days. 1485, Ta'an 11a, finished 11b, Malter, page 77. Samuel said, "He that fasts for self-affliction is called a sinner." R. Elazar Ha Kapar Berebe, for an explanation of the title Berebe, CJESV, said, "Why is it said, Numbers 6:11, and make atonement for him for that he sinned? Against what soul did he sin? It can only mean that he denied himself the enjoyment of wine. Now, if a person who denies himself only the enjoyment of wine is called a sinner, all the more so one who denies himself all the enjoyments of life." Yet R. Elazar said, "He that fasts is called holy, for it is said at Numbers 6:5, he shall be holy." Now, if this man, the Nazarite, who denied himself only the enjoyment of wine is called holy, all the more so one who denies himself all the enjoyments of life. But did not R. Elazar also say, a man should always consider himself as if the Holy One were within him, because it is said, Hosea 11:9, "The Holy One in the midst of thee." The idea here is that on account of the presence of the divine within man, he should not be allowed to afflict himself. The idea to afflict himself is in brackets. This is no contradiction, for in one instance he has in mind one who can stand privations, in the other one who cannot. Ta'an 11a, finished 11b, Malter 77b, 1486, Ta'an 22b, Malter, page 164. Joseph said, an individual is not allowed to afflict himself by fasting, for he might become dependent upon the public by reason of incapacity for work, and find no mercy on their part. Joshua said, in the name of Rab, what is Joseph's scriptural reason? It is written, Genesis 2:7, and man became a living soul, and Torah means to say, keep alive the soul which I gave you. To on 22b, Malter, page 164, for sigaf, to afflict oneself, see 1072, 1238, and 1473 are, just listen to these programs in order. 1487 to on 11b, Malter, page 78. Jeremiah B. Abba said, in the name of Resh Lakish, a scholar is not allowed to impose fasts upon himself because it makes him lessen his heavenly work. To on 11b, Malter, page 78. The heavenly work is the study of the law. Let man then be thankful for what God, or his neighbor, has given him. 1488 T, bearer 9, section 2, folio 13c, line 12, bearer 58a. Ben Zoma said, how hard the first man, Adam, must have labored before he could eat a bit of bread. He had to plow, and sow, and weed, and hoe, and reap, and thresh, winnow, and sift, grind, sift again, knead, moisten, and bake, and only after all this eat his bread. Whereas I get up in the morning and find the bread all ready for me. What toil Adam had till he could be clothed with the simplest raiment. He had to shear, bleach, beat the wool, dye it, spin it, weave it, wash it, and sew it together, and only after all this was he clothed. Whereas I get up in the morning and find all my clothes prepared for me. How many workmen get up early and go late to rest, whereas I get up in the morning and find all things I need before me? T.J. Bearer, 9, section 2, folio 13c, line 12, bearer 58a. Even the most commonplace things have their place in life, and therefore have a claim on man's esteem. He must recognize what he owes them. 1489, Tanch Era, section 14, folio 99b. Why were the water and the dust smitten by Aaron, as it is written, God said to Aaron, take thy staff, Exodus 9:5, because God said to Moses, the water which guarded thee when thou wast cast into the Nile, and the dust which protected thee when thou slewest the Egyptian and covered his body in the dust, it is not right that they should be smitten by the hand, therefore let them be smitten by Aaron. Tanch Wa'era, section 14, folio 99b.